say that both the posters and the presentations were extremely high standard in general, and have improved significantly over the past 20 years. But of course, there is still room for improvement. Before I say that, I've missed one important thing, and that is that I really want to congratulate APECS. I think APECS has done a stunning job. It's grown amazingly, it's extremely active, and there's huge enthusiasm. So I think the future is very good, and we hope that this tiny little bit of advice that we're giving can help future visibility of APECS. Just over lunch, I tried to calculate that between the evaluators, or among the evaluators, there is something like 130, 140 years of research experience that goes into this list that I'm going to present now. But then if I add Josi Svoboda and myself, it goes way beyond 200 years, I'm afraid. But what we've done is we've just looked at basically do's and don'ts. I'm not sure how I can scroll down. Of making posters and given some general tips. And we hope this is useful. Some of it is obvious, some of it is not. But we hope this can help APECS. Maybe it can go on the APECS website. Maybe it can become a living document, so it can be edited and added to and changed as time goes on. I'm going to go through it very, very quickly, so please don't evaluate me. It's not going to be a good presentation, I warn you. Think, first of all, why you make a poster. Number one, it's to make specialists aware of your work. Number two, it's to make the non-specialists understand what you're doing and increase your visibility. If they don't understand what you're doing, your visibility won't have increased. And anecdote that I learned from one of my professors very, very many years ago, when I made some big mistake, was remember, anyone can make something that is simple seem to be very complicated. But it takes a lot of skill for something that is complicated to be put across in an understandable way. And that is your challenge when you're making a poster. Life is complicated. Ecology, for example, is extremely complicated. But you have to make it understandable. You have to get your message across. So then, the do's and don'ts. And again, I apologise, I'm going to go through this quickly. Make it short. Don't try to cover subject, this is the title, sorry. Don't try to cover subject, location, methods, results, everything in the title, because people will get lost and get bored before they go into the rest of the text. Make it snappy, make it short. If you have a result, very often you can use a journalistic style to get your message across in just a few words. So, new plant species discovered. People will stop and look at that. And then they will know where it was done and how it was done and the implications. But stop people. Don't use phrases like further investigations of XX, Y between the years, so and so, using such a methodology. People will be switched off immediately. If you don't have a result to use, and some posters are talking about your plans and work in progress, not the final results, then try to use your hypothesis as a question, so people immediately know what you're going to do. Do species neuter signs live under glaciers? It immediately tells people what you're trying to do and what the paper is about. You haven't got a result to boast about, but it does tell people what you're doing immediately. Use a large font. Don't use fancy, difficult to read fonts. You have to be able to read posters if you're an old man like me from more than half a metre away. So use large fonts. Don't use fancy fonts. The content. Be concise. Avoid unnecessary detail and refer to further reading other papers or other sources such as websites. Don't try to present a mini paper. And many posters try to do that. The text in red is those that we've identified as the most important mistakes that are usually made. Not particularly at this conference, but in general. Give basic background to identify the problem. And also the relevance, and this is very often missing, because many of us are interested in curiosity-driven science. So the relevance falls behind, because we're just interested in the results in a very narrow context. If you have relevance, if your work is relevant to human health, human welfare, put it in there. Don't write a mini review. Give very clear, explicit objectives, probably no more than 3, and don't leave the objectives lost and floating in the introduction. Make them absolutely explicit. Give minimal methodological details, refer to other source, and use of photographs is a very good way of putting across complex details on methodology. Focus on the key results only, with simple, easy to understand graphics and or tables. Don't present more than about 2 figures and 2 tables, or their equivalents, photographs for example. Use large fonts with graphs, and if you're using a table, don't use more than about 4 by 4 cells. Long lists don't communicate. Where, again, this is repeating the point really, where multiple sites exist or multiple data sets, don't give the whole list. Give the average and present the ranges, the outliers. Don't present a long list of data. Present short conclusions. Don't present long discussions. There is a difference between a conclusion and a discussion. We don't have space or time to read and prepare discussions in posters. So have snappy conclusions, perhaps in bullet points. And this is important. We picked this up in a few posters here, and that is make sure that the conclusions follow on from the hypothesis or the aims of the paper. In some cases, people get distracted and raise new points in the conclusions, or a slightly different topic even. And you've got to set off with an objective, and you've got to return to that objective at the end for it to be a logical presentation. One important thing is that a lot of curiosity-driven science posters leave the reader, particularly if it's a politician or someone from a funding agency, with a question, so what? We know a little bit more about the subject now, but what does it mean? And too many of us, when we present to other scientists. We don't think we're trying to present to people outside our field and impress them. So please always ask yourself, whether it's a proposal or a poster or a paper, so what? What does it mean? Yeah, I'm sorry to do this. I mean, some of you may not agree with this point, but so many posters, many papers say we are adding to our understanding, adding to information. Well, of course, every paper does that. And that doesn't really grab attention. If you're just adding another data point, that's not really important. You want to avoid that type of statement. You want to really dwell on the importance of what you've done, not just that you've added another database, another point to database. If you have significant results, boast. So using phrases like, this is the first time that, or we present a new finding that, and that really grabs attention and gives you visibility. And again, don't use the phrases like this study as a new information from another area. It's a turn-off. In terms of continuity of the presentation and thinking about what happens after the presentation, give key references, website, contact details, and a business card, acknowledgements, and so on. But don't try to be comprehensive. I know we all like to please our funding agencies, but have it in small font somewhere. Appearance and layout, use appropriate dimensions, and don't make readers kneel down on the floor or stand on chairs to read the poster. It's not easy. Even if, as Kim told me, I was closer to the ground than most. And make the poster attractive. But then there is a fine balance between making the poster attractive and dazzling people. People get turned off if they're dazzled or shocked by really fancy colours and busy backgrounds, confusing backgrounds. So, good luck. I hope those tips will help people, and I repeat, I hope APECS will put this on their website and that it can be a living document. People can change, add to it, and I hope you find it useful.